Yo, what is going on, guys? It's Jay Palms back with another beat tutorial. As promised, I'm going to be making a lo-fi beat today. It actually turned out a little more jazzy than I thought, so we could call it a jazzy lo-fi. Why not? That's what the title's going to be. So I started off. Typically, I don't usually sample songs, but recently I've been doing it quite a lot more and been getting quite a bit better at it. So I thought, why not just sample a little something for this beat right here. So I was searching on YouTube just for some jazzy samples, and I came across this one. It's called it's by the 24 Karat Black, and it's called Mother's Day, I think. And it just had a really nice sounding melody that I thought would fit like a lo-fi beat perfectly. I think it's a little bit faster than your typical lo-fi beat at 84 BPM. I could be wrong though, but I think that's a little faster than they usually are. But it's just kind of what the sample was similar to, and so I think it was a little bit slower. But I felt when I was cutting and chopping it, as you can see here, that it just fit 84 BPM a lot more, so I decided to stick with that. And some of the time I find with samples is that you'll get a sample that is panned quite heavy, or the bit that you're sampling from that song is panned quite heavily one way or the other. So I use the direction mixer here in Logic, just a stock thing from Logic, and just moved that knob to the left, and it helped to even out the stereo image. I think I also pan it a little bit as well. So yeah, I just added a really simple EQ, cut the highs, because in the high frequencies there was like a really annoying kind of like a white noise thing. So I cut all of that out and cut the lows. Very simple. Dropped it down a few semitones, and then I boosted some of the frequencies that are there in the middle there. Added a bit of echo just to beef it up, because it's quite a jazzy sample, so it's a bit like stop and starty. So yeah, just by adding the echo, it kind of removes the sort of stop and starty nature of it. So yeah, it took me next to no time to get the melody sorted out from the sample. So I just went straight onto the drums, and for the snare I used a rim. But I cut out quite a lot of the highs, as you can see there. Even the mid highs I cut out quite a lot of, because the snares in lo-fi beats are typically very low key, and they don't have a lot of high end in them. So yeah, that's why I did that, and it just makes it sound less kind of in your face and more soft and more relaxing, which is genuinely what lo-fi beats aim to do. So here I'm starting on the hats, and to make the hats sound more realistic, I every second hi-hat I just drop the velocity a little bit, so the first one's playing a bit harder than the second one, and it just helps to make it sound more realistic, like someone's actually playing them in. Also with the EQ there, I did a similar thing with the snares, because you don't want a whole lot of high end in lo-fi beats, so I've just cut quite a lot of the high end from the hi-hats just to stay true to that. And it makes it sound more realistic, because most of the time with my trap beats I'll cut out everything but the high frequencies, and it makes it sound quite kind of computer generated, because a normal hi-hat, especially if it's played in like a jazzy scenario, it's quite low key and quite real sounding. So I just wanted to replicate that. And here I'm actually sidechaining the snares to the melody, because I hear this done quite a lot in lo-fi, and it just, I don't know, it just works really, really well. And basically, for any of you guys that don't really know what sidechaining is when if you sidechain one like a melody to like a drum, which is usually what I do. You can do it with a drum and a drum, but in this case it's the melody to the snare. Every time that snare hits, the melody is going to compress to however much you want it, so it kind of gives a sort of fading in and out feel. And yeah, this technique's used a lot in lo-fi, so I thought I'd do it here, and it came out really nice. Sometimes I quite like to sidechain my melodies to my kicks as well, because it just gives it a nice kind of movement. it's the melody's got a bit of movement. It's sort of breathing, which can be nice. But some people sidechain their 808s to their kicks. I wouldn't recommend doing that, because it just means, because there are so many better methods to combine your 808s and kicks, that sidechaining just isn't it. Because every time your kick hits, a lot of the time your 808 is also hitting. So if you're sidechaining it, you're just taking away from the 808, which is going to be the main driver of your track. If you're making trap typically, or R&B or whatever. So yeah, that's what I'd say about sidechaining. But I quite like to do it to melodies, and yeah, it just gives it a bit of movement and helps it to combine with the drums quite nicely. So yeah, throughout the drum sequencing process, I've made sure to humanize everything that I put down, just because you want, in a lo-fi beat, you want the drums sounding as if someone's playing them, because it's not supposed to be this kind of computer generated stuff. It's supposed to be quite raw and natural. So yeah, I've made sure that everything's a little bit off grid, and what I like to do is I'd move it a little bit off the grid, and then humanize it on top of the movement, so that it really gets a sort of realistic feel. So here so going back to what I was saying about sidechaining 808s and kicks together, this is a technique that I do instead of sidechaining, is boosting the kicks around 300-400 hertz, and then taking out the lows. So you're giving room for the 808, but you're also not completely taking away from the kick, and you're still allowing the punch of the kick to come through, whilst not taking anything away from the 808. And what I do is then I'll decrease those frequencies I've boosted in the kicks on the 808, and obviously not take the low end out of the 808. So it just pairs together so much more nicely than if you were to sidechain them both. So here I'm doing the bass line. Typically I use 808s, but for lo-fis you don't ever really want to be using 808s because it's far too powerful. You want something much more low-key. So I found this bass guitar sample, and I just sort of chopped and screwed with it until it sounded all right. I think I added a similar EQ. So what I was saying with the 808 and the kicks, I had a similar EQ where I'm boosting and taking away, with the kick in mind, making sure that I'm not boosting both of the same frequencies and both of the bass sounds, because it just will peak and not sound nice. But also with the bass guitar, it's not as heavy of a bass as an 808, so you can, just for sort of managing reasons, you can take away some of the low end from the bass guitar, but not too much, because obviously it is a bass instrument at the end of the day, so you do want the bass to be coming through. I've also added an RC20 onto the guitar, because obviously if it was just an 808, you would never put RC20 on it, because it just would make it too muddy, in my opinion. But with a bass guitar, it's got a little bit more character, slightly higher frequency, so just adding that RC20 just gives it more of a retro feel and made it sound nice. And this is a plugin I never really knew existed, to be honest, but it's called Remix FX. It's a Logic Stop plugin, and I've been automating it a lot on my melodies for the drop. You'll hear later, once I play the showcase at the end, the automation that I did, it just kind of goes whoop, it's like whoop, 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 whoop. It kind of gates the melody and can make for a really nice drop sound. So yeah, and that's literally that is the beat right there. Apart from, I do add in another stage of the beat the same melody, but I boost it up an octave and play it on top of the melody. So when you hear it in the showcase, you'll hear that same melody in a higher register coming in just after this little sequence you can see on screen. But apart from that, that's pretty much the beat, guys. It's just super simple. Often with lo-fi beats, that's what you want to do. Just keep it nice and simple. Nothing crazy. No hi-hat rolls really. Just sort of really realistic sounding drums, and yeah, just generally just taking those higher frequencies out, so it's much more low-key and relaxing and chilled. So yeah, that about does it, boys. If you could just drop a subscription, like the video, that'd be greatly appreciated. If you could share it with a friend. But yeah, that does it. That does it for me. Cheers for listening, boys. Have a good one.